Hi, I'm Michael Skolnik, and I'm honored to dedicate this episode to Sybrina Fulton, the mother of Trayvon Martin. As a proud board member of the Trayvon Martin Foundation, and someone who has been working to end gun violence in America for decades, I've seen the devastating impact on mothers who have lost loved ones to this horrible epidemic. I've also seen how the same mothers become powerful engines for change and provide healing to those who suffer a similar tragic loss. When I heard about what Julie was doing with Mother's Quest and the Women's Podcasters and Solidarity Initiative, I knew right away I wanted to connect her to Sybrina. I'm so happy that this conversation is coming to you, along with an invitation to donate to Sybrina's important healing work with Circle of Mothers, which you'll soon hear more about. I'm proud to call Sybrina my friend, and I'm also proud to call Julie my friend. These are two remarkable women, and I hope this conversation reaches far and wide, that together we can amplify the voices and direct resources, the transformative work that mothers like Sybrina are doing to stop gun violence all across this country.
Hi, and welcome to Mother's Quest, a podcast for moms like me ready to live our own truly epic life. I'm Julie Neal, a life and leadership coach, community builder, writer, and mom to two high-energy boys who challenge me to grow into my best self. I'll be right there. Where was I? I'm honored to bring this special episode of the Mother's Quest podcast to you with mother, activist, writer, co-founder of the Trayvon Martin Foundation, and an inspiration to so many, Sybrina Fulton. The episode is the last in a series I've recorded for the Women Podcasters and Solidarity Initiative on the subject of gun safety and the intersectional impact of gun violence on our communities. Unfortunately, Sybrina deeply knows the grief that comes in the wake of gun violence. But after the deadly 2012 shooting of her beloved son, Trayvon Benjamin Martin, she felt compelled to rise up, literally pushing herself to get out of her bed, becoming the voice for her son, and embarking on a journey to bring awareness to senseless gun violence and racial profiling. In 2016, Sybrina rallied to the forefront at the Democratic National Convention with a group of African-American trailblazing women connected by tragedy, who became known as Mothers of the Movement for the Black Lives Matter movement the death of their children sparked. She didn't stop there. In 2017, Sybrina co-authored her first book, Rest in Power: The Enduring Life of Trayvon Martin, a memoir recounting the death of her son, which became the subject of a docuseries that debuted this year, Rest in Power: The Trayvon Martin Story, produced by hip-hop mogul Sean Jay-Z Carter. This intimate conversation, over a year in the making, was a unique opportunity to delve into Sybrina's own journey, how the epic guideposts show up in her life and in her activism, and to hear her powerful call to action to invest in mothers by reaching out to mothers grieving in our own communities and by contributing to her Circle of Mothers, a labor of love that came to her in her dreams. I'm grateful to Michael Skolnik, who dedicated this episode, for connecting me to Sybrina and for inviting us to spread this conversation far and wide and direct resources to help mothers turn their grief into healing and activism, following Sybrina's powerful example. Michael and I have each pledged the first $3,000 to the fundraising campaign, $1,500 each to help a mother who needs it to attend Circle of Mothers. I hope you'll open your hearts and minds to Sybrina's story. Visit mothersquest.com/Circle of Mothers and join us in contributing to her mission. I'm Julie Neal, and this is Mother's Quest. Sybrina, welcome to the Mother's Quest podcast. It is such an honor to have this time with you, and I'm so grateful to have the space to share some more of your story and also, what you want other mothers like me to know and to do to move into action in memory of your son. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start first, before my first question, which is about your childhood and your own mother, just to ask you if there's anything that you would want me to know or other mothers to know before having a sensitive and vulnerable conversation like this, other mothers may wonder when someone they know has lost a child, how to have a conversation. And I think it would not only help me as I move into this interview, but other mothers too, to know if there's anything that you have found is helpful or not helpful as we move forward.
A few things that comes to mind when you said that. A lot of times people want to separate the cause of death. They want to say, okay, this is a mom that has lost a child through gun violence. This is a mom who has lost a child through an illness or a car accident. But it's all the same pain. It's all the same hurt. We all go through the same struggles on a daily basis. We all will be recovering the rest of our lives. And so a lot of people try to put us in different categories, but it's all the same pain. It's all the same hurt. It doesn't matter if your child was killed by a police officer or their best friend. It doesn't matter if it was a family member, if it was a Black person or a white person or a Hispanic person. Those things are not important. The loss is so real and the loss is so impactful to the rest of your life that people don't quite understand that. Another thing that comes to my mind is that a lot of times people say that they're sorry for your loss and they probably should leave it right there or say, I'm supporting you, I'm praying for you, and leave it right there. Sometimes they add these different cliches to it and they say, well, he's in a better place or she's in a better place. When you lose a person that you love, you don't want to hear that they're in a better place. I mean, that's absolutely the last thing that you want to hear, because at that moment, you're questioning God, even though it's something that we should not be doing at that particular time. You are questioning God, and you are questioning why God did certain things. And so that's just not something that we want to hear as mothers. It's like, just let me get past it. Let me get through this struggle. Let me get through this disappointment. Let me get through this hurt and this pain that I'm going through so that I am at least somewhat in a healthy state of mind.
Thank you so much. I can relate to, that desire to wanting to say the right thing that you think is going to make someone feel better. And the truth is, there is no making anyone feel better.
No, the only thing, just let them know that you're there for them. If they want to cry, let them cry. If they want to pray, then pray with them. If they need a hug, just give them a hug. But a lot of times people, try to do too much, and that's not what we need. We just need to know that we are not alone, that if I want to walk on the beach, that somebody is there to walk with me, that if I want to go to church, there is somebody there to go with me. So it doesn't feel like I'm going through this by myself.
Yeah. Well, and before we pressed record, we talked a little bit about this as well. And you said, if you ask me something that I don't want to answer, I'll tell you. And I really appreciate that. And know that at any point in this conversation, if there is a place you don't want to explore or something I say that you realize, is not landing right, it is safe to name it here. And I know that will serve other people listening too. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Thank you.
So Sybrina, before we move into the depth of this conversation, tell me first a little bit about your own childhood and the impact that your mother had in shaping who you are today and how you've moved forward in the face of this tragedy.
I don't remember my mom struggling, even though she may have. I just don't remember or recall where there were days that I didn't have a place to stay, or I didn't have food to eat, or I didn't have clothes to wear. So that being said, I had two working parents. We went on vacation every year. I was able to go to college. They had money for me to go to college. And so, I went to summer camp. I did everything that I could possibly do as a child. Education was very important in our house. My mom and dad were very strict. So some of those things I carried with me, and I was a little strict with my kids as well. But I think at the time, you just think your parents are being mean and they don't want you to go different places, when they're just trying to be cautious about the places that you go and the people that you hang around. And so, of course, I didn't realize it back then. But as I got older, I realized that some of the decisions that my parents made were for my own good. My mom is and has been a very important part of my life. She is my everything. She does everything for me. She is just so supportive in whatever I do. And I'm just grateful to just still have her. I grew up with not only my mother, but my grandmother and my great grandmother. So I saw 3 generations of strong women. And so I questioned my own ability and my own strength. And then I remembered my mom, my grandmother, and my great grandmother. And I just realized that, listen, it didn't start with me. It just trickled down to me. And I just remember them being strong women. I mean, it seemed like whatever happened or whatever incident happened, they were able to weather that storm. They were able to come through it, and they were able to pray about it. They were able to support each other. I have a very strong family. I have close-knit friends, and, which encompasses my circle. So I have my church family, I have my family, and then I have support from so many people all over the United States and even the world. So that inspired me. So many people told me that I inspired them, but they also inspired me by just, people like yourself, Julie, that just said, okay, I didn't lose a child, but this is near and dear to my heart. And that inspires me.
I was watching recently the documentary that was done, Rest in Power, and it was so evident the connection between your mom and you and your mom and Trayvon. So Stephanie and I have been communicating now for about a year and getting this conversation to happen. And that support network seems so evident and also clearly evident in the inspiration for what you've created in Circle of Mothers, which I know we're going to talk more about a little later. Well, I want to now ask you a question that my son has for you. One of the things I do all the time is engage my children in conversations about the things that I'm exploring through Mother's Quest. And so yesterday when I dropped my 14-year-old off, originally you and I were supposed to speak yesterday, and I said, "What's in your heart or mind for Sybrina?" And he said, "I wonder, what is it like when you're calling and the work that you're doing in the world is sparked by something that was so sad?" And I thought that was a profound question, which connects to what I typically ask people about living an epic life. Because, I declared that I wanted to live an epic life, like the kind that would be stories I would tell my children when I'm a grandparent, of me making a difference in the world and using my gifts to have an impact and not letting fear stop me. And I see you living an epic life, but like Ryan said so powerfully, so much of what you're doing in such powerful ways came from this tremendous loss. So I wonder if you could share a little bit about what that's like.
Well, it's one thing to sign up for something. It's another one to be forced into it. And I just feel like I was forced into it. I feel like my son does not have a voice anymore. He can't speak for himself. And so I have become the spokesperson for Trayvon Martin, and so has his dad. And so initially I struggled with this new role, with this new position. But the more that I told God that he picked the wrong person, he convinced me that he picked the right one. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm doing my part. It started from my son, but it's so much bigger than just Trayvon Martin. I know that I can't save my son because he's in heaven, but at the same time, there are so many other people that are living a Trayvon Martin life, a teenager just wearing a hoodie, just minding his own business, that's unarmed. And so anybody could be sitting in the seat that I'm sitting in. Anybody could be walking in my shoes. It could be somebody a phone call away from telling me that, listen, they shot and killed my son. I even had a godson that my friend from 7th grade had. She was there. She was there for me when this happened with Trayvon. She was there. And then I get a call about 2 years ago, and her son was killed in a motorcycle accident. So now she's sitting on the same side of the table that I'm sitting on, and it wasn't that he was shot and killed, but a motorcycle accident that took his life. And now she's living the same thing that her and I talked about. Like, we had like nightly conversations about how I felt and what I was going through and the why me syndrome. And now it's her. Now it's her, and she's having a very difficult time coping with it. Of course, a lot of people turn to the church, which is a good thing because there are a bunch of negative things out here. Somebody could turn to alcohol or drugs or men or something like that. And so it's good to know that people take the negative energy and turn it to something positive. And so that's what she's doing. That's what I'm doing. I think that a lot of my help and a lot of my healing comes from the fact that I help other mothers, I help other families, I help other people. And that's what really is rewarding for me. That's what's really helping me to continue to go on. And I have another son that's 28 years old. His name is Javaris. I just think about Javaris. I just have to do it because Javaris is here. I can't lose my child and then lose my own life by walking around not doing anything. And so it's being done with a purpose. It's unfortunate that we're going through this tragedy with my son in order for me to become an activist, in order for me to help other mothers, but sometimes that's what it takes.
I want to use this as an opportunity to move into what I call the EPIC guideposts. So EPIC, in addition to connoting this idea of, following our calling and living the fullest part of our lives, also stands for the guideposts that I think help us live that life when we're raising our children. And the first guidepost, E, stands for engage mindfully with our children. And I want to hear a little bit about what you've learned about how we might protect our children, particularly children of color, from gun violence, from racial profiling, and then also what you're doing within the foundation to support young people, because I know that is so central to your mission.
I'm going to say that first and foremost, that sometimes it's not about what our children are saying, what our children are doing, what our children are wearing, or where they're at. Sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with that. It has to do with the other person. So we have to change mindsets. We have to be able to speak with people, to change these people, to touch these people. So these people will realize that it might be something that you don't like about people, maybe the color of their skin, maybe their religion, maybe their sexual orientation, but just to be the fact that they're a human being, you should respect that. And nobody should hate somebody to the point that they want to harm them or they want to kill them. That is a very evil spirit. And we have a lot of that that's happening here in the United States. It's an evil spirit. And we have to change that evil spirit. And by changing that, we have to change their mindset. Because people don't realize what you're going through until it hits their doorstep. When it hits their doorstep, then they realize, well, they thought it was okay for somebody else's child to get killed. But what happens when your child is killed? Then they understand. And so, that's one of the things that, of course, we do at the foundation is bring in awareness to senseless gun violence because it's not even necessary. I mean, the semi-automatic guns that people are using, I don't have anything against guns. I don't have anything against gun owners. It just needs to be sensible. It needs to be sensible gun owners. I mean, you need to have a gun to protect yourself, but at the same time, you should not be just going out like shooting people because of their religion, because of the color of their skin, because of their sexual orientation. You should not do that. That's an evil spirit. And so with the foundation, we do a few things. We have a youth summit that we do every year. We have about 500 kids. And we usually have about 2 a year. We've made it 2 a year, and we've done 2 this year also. And we talk to the kids about suicide and gun violence, of course, and we try to bridge the gap between the young people and law enforcement. We talk about those heavy-hitting things that they can't quite talk about in school because the teachers can't talk about this, and they can't say that, and they can't say that. And so we talk about it through the foundation because we want to know it's an epidemic with people killing themselves. It's an epidemic with drugs. Not only do they want to commit suicide, but they kill whoever they're involved with. They kill a boyfriend or the girlfriend, and then they kill themselves. And they have to see that it's a way out. And a lot of times people don't see that, life goes on. They just see whatever they see in front of them right then. But that's one of the things that the foundation does. We also have a scholarship program where we send 2 high school students to college, and we're very proud of that. And in February, we'll have our Remembrance Weekend. We celebrate Trayvon's birth and not his death. So the beginning of February, we have what we call is the Peace Walk. It's the Trayvon Martin Foundation Peace Walk and Peace Talk. It's going to be February 9th and 10th here in Miami, Florida. We want people and the young people to know that they have a right to walk in peace without being followed, chased, pursued, profiled, or murdered. And so after the short walk, we have a peace talk. where we have different elected officials and community leaders and young people. And, it's entertaining as well. And we just want to send clear message to try to encourage this country, to try to encourage people that you can move past what you see right in front of you. And a lot of times, we turn on the news and we see all the bad news that's on. Somebody got killed. There was a car accident over here, and then all the politics that's ridiculous right now. We see all those things and it's all bad. Well, where's the good news? Maybe they should have a news station where it's just good news. And then if you want to watch the news, you watch the good news or you watch the bad news. But I think people need to see, they need some type of inspiration. They need some type of motivation to know that this is where we are now. We're in the valley now. We're in a ditch right now, but we are coming back up to the top.
That work is so powerful to be able to build community and build connection and also look at the positive things. I'm also really glad that when I asked that question, you said that it's not about something that the young people need to do differently, because there is so much in the system, in the institutions, in the way that racism is in our society, that is not about young people or what they're wearing. And for the next Guidepost P, which is about passionate, purposeful impact, I'm curious what your thoughts are about how we go about starting to change some of those bigger systems. So just for an example, this week where I live, there was a hearing at the San Mateo County Supervisors meeting about a young, not a teenager, but a fairly young man, a Black man, who was tasered to death by the police. He was unarmed. He had not done anything wrong. The report is coming out, but it seems so clear that he was profiled in a way that a white man walking down the street would not have been. How do we begin to change our culture and our system so that things like this don't happen, and that when they do, there's more transparency and accountability? Would love your thoughts about that.
Well, one thing with so much with the surveillance cameras and the security cameras and people's cameras on their phone, and they're taking videos and things like that, we are more aware of what's going on. It's not that we're starting to see it. It's other people starting to see it, because this is a life that we live. This is what we have to deal with on, just growing up in America. But a lot of people didn't realize it because they never saw it. They might have heard about it, but they never saw it. Now we have so many videos, they can show you what a gang member did to a gay couple. They can show you somebody stealing some Christmas decorations off somebody's porch. They can show you somebody being hit by a car and the car rides off. We can actually see those things. And so now this country is more aware than anything. I mean, you have people that you didn't know is racist. Now you are aware that they're racist because they are showing you their true colors. And so now that we see their true colors, now we got to come back to the basics, because remember, you had people who were standing around watching somebody being hung from a tree, and people that stood around did absolutely nothing, and they're just as bad as the person that put the rope around his neck. A lot of people are not talking about that. They'll say they're sorry about slavery, but what are they doing to change it? It's only so much we can do if the people that are oppressing us are still in office, are still in control, still have the power, still have the money. It's hard to make those changes. So we have to do our part. One of the parts that we did was through the documentary and through the docuseries being aired on TV, and it's going to also be shown in other media outlets. But that's just one form, just showing you what happened with Trayvon Martin. There are others out there, and people just need to be more aware of what's happening. It's blatant and it's in their face, but they're pretending as if it's not happening. And it is. But they don't realize it until it happens to their child. And so we have to continue to have these types of conversations. We have to have forums and we have to have meetings where we're discussing these things, because that's the only way it's going to come out, by discussing it. And that's the only way we can move forward in order to come to some type of resolution, is by discussing it. You can't pretend that it's going to go away. It's not going to go away. It's just going to fester and fester and fester. And so it's good that, they have the cameras so that people can see it. So now a lot of people see what African Americans and brown and Black boys go through, and young ladies go through, where they didn't know. I had a lady that actually walked up to me And she gave me a hug and she just cried. And she said she had no clue. And she told me she was sorry. She had no clue that this was still happening in America. And it's true. It's true. And some people, maybe they are naive and they're saying, well, it happens every now and then. No, it's happening every day. When you can watch on TV and you see somebody get shot in the back by the police and the person spends not one day in jail, when you have somebody in a chokehold in New York and they said, no, that wasn't the cause of death, it looked like to me he would still be alive had the police not choked him. You had Jordan Davis in Jacksonville that was playing the music too loud. You had Sandra Bland, I think she was speeding or something, and they arrested her, took her to jail, and she's deceased. But nobody is being held accountable for these deaths. It seems like the justice system works against us and not for us. I really feel like I just sat like a kiddie land court system. That was my first trial. And it's just so apparent that things are not fair when it comes to the justice system.
Whew. I just need to take a breath for a moment. I'm just sitting with the injustice of it all, trying to figure out what to say next.
It's heavy. Take your time. It's heavy. I know it's a lot to deal with, but it's what we seeing. We seeing people get shot in the back. We seeing people being unarmed. And now the most disgusting thing is this thing where these people are going into these schools and killing our kids. I mean, the only thing you are guilty of is going to school with your book bag.
Right.
I have a mom in Valdosta, Georgia. Her son was Kendrick Johnson. He went to school with his book bag. He came home in a body bag. They killed him at school, rolled him up in a mat and said that he went in the mat to get his shoe.
Oh my God.
If you see the condition of this child's body, his mom posted, her name is Jackie Johnson. She posts her son's deceased pictures on Facebook. She wants people to see what they did to her child. Nobody spent a day in jail for that. Not one single day. Mike Brown, his mom is dealing with the same thing. Nobody is being held accountable.
So I know and hope that many people listening to this conversation will hear the passion. There is this just raw and pure truth about how unjust and really just despicable this is. And I think that so many of us don't want to look at it. Or what happens is what happened to me for years, which is we see the story and we feel awful, but we don't know what to do. And then we just sort of go about our day, which is a luxury that other people do not have. So I just hope that the passion and the truth in which you just shared all of these names and all of these stories will reach at least one other person who will decide today in this moment that it's not okay and that we cannot continue to hear about these things and just move on, that this problem is all of our problem, regardless of the color of our skin. I guess I just want to say it's also imperfect. One of the biggest challenges I've had is figuring out how can I do this knowing that there's no clear path, or that as I step into this, I may say the wrong thing or not do enough. I think the only thing to do is just start to take imperfect action. So I'm feeling recommitted in hearing what you're sharing, that this is something that we all need to be working toward together. And I hope that more and more people will watch the documentary that you created. And we'll put links into the show notes for that. We'll hear the stories. One of the things that I had become involved in this year is a play called The Mothers, which created a space for mothers who lost children to police violence in this case, to tell their stories. And more people need to hear it and to witness it.
I agree. It brings more awareness. It brings about conversation. It brings about education. And those are some key points, even if people didn't know discrimination still exists, that violence was so rapid, gun violence was so rapid. Even if they didn't know that, they for sure know it now. They definitely know it now. You have to be living under a rock in order for you not to know what's going on right now. It's so available and it's so all over the place and in your face. So it doesn't matter what social media outlet they go on. It doesn't matter what channel they turn on for the news. It does not matter. I can go to any state in Florida and turn on the news and there's some bad news on there about somebody getting robbed, somebody getting shot, somebody's killed, a car accident. It's just awful right now.
I want to ask you then about the next guidepost, because I think it's really important for what you just said, because it can become overwhelming, all of the bad news and all of the grief, and it can feel like there's no way to move forward. The next guidepost, I, stands for invested in ourselves. And I really want to hear what your thoughts are, because I know you also support so many other mothers who have had loss. What are the ways that we can care for ourselves and sustain ourselves so that we can not just shut down or become overwhelmed or paralyzed by the racism and the gun violence and all of these tragedies that are so in our face right now?
The first thing I could say is I do my part. Everybody has to do their part. If something touches your life, whether it's directly or indirectly, you should be compelled to do some type of action. You got to have some type of action. And it's not about just liking something on Facebook. You got to do something. Whether you write a letter or write a check to a foundation, you have to do something. You should feel compelled. Your inner being should feel compelled to want to help and to want to do something. And so I recently was in Bermuda. We have a circle of mothers that just created in Bermuda about 2 weeks ago. And one of the things that when I talked to the moms, I told them, tell me 3 things that you used to do before your child was shot and killed that you stopped doing, that you don't do anymore. And I was very interested to know some of the things that they said because, I stopped doing a lot of things when my son was first killed. I mean, you just don't have a desire to do those things. And some of the things that they said was being around family, being around friends, like going out in places. Somebody said traveling. It was just so many different things that they came up with. And that's one of the things I have to disconnect myself away from everything that's going on. Like when I'm at home, I kind of disconnect myself from the world. I might listen to the radio, listen to music. I might watch a movie of my choice and not just what's on cable television. I might do something. I might read a book. I might look at pictures. I have to do something to put back into me because I just feel like I'm pulled in so many different directions that sometimes I have to put back into Sybrina. And so I have to do things that surround what I like to do. I like to go to the beach. I'm from Florida. I'm a Miami girl, and I like to go to the beach. So sometimes I put this big hat on, I put my bathing suit on, I cover up and everything. And I go to the beach and I might sit in a chair. I might call my friend over and tell her, let's go sit on the beach. And we might just order some pizza or something. We sitting on the beach, we listen to music and I'm just watching the waves. Well, that takes me away from everything that I'm going through, everything that's going on in the world and all the bad news and all the politics and all that. Every now and then I have to just step back and step away. And that helps me. And so I like to shop. I'm a shopper. And so sometimes I have to go to the mall. But when I go to the mall, there are people there who recognize who I am, and they might not let me shop in peace.
Mm-hmm.
So the mall might not always be a good thing, but I do love to go to the beach. And that's one of my outings. I like to go to church. So sometimes I go to my own church where mostly everybody knows me, or sometimes I go to a different church just to visit. But, I like church. Sometimes I have to put back into me. And that's very important to a mom, not only who has lost a child, but maybe you have lost a parent or a husband or wife, or, you've lost something that meant so much to you. And sometimes you just have to think about yourself and put back into yourself. And a lot of times we don't spend a whole bunch of time as mothers, we're not interested in self-care, but we should be. Because we have to make sure that our mind, body, and soul is on point. We got to make sure that our things are working and functioning. We thinking with a sound mind, and we got a healthy body, and we're eating right, and we're getting enough rest. We have to think about ourselves sometimes. And a lot of times, too often, we don't. We're thinking about everybody else. We're thinking about our in-laws. We're thinking about our kids. We're thinking about our parents. We're thinking about brothers and sisters and your friends. And we're thinking about so many other things that we never really just sit down and say, what have I done for myself lately?
Yeah. Oh, well, I love the image of you on the beach with your big and I that is something.
And my shades. Don't forget my shades.
And I think that is something as you said, all mothers can relate to. I also think it's really important for activists or for somebody listening now that is going to decide to step into activism for the first time. I mentioned I just recorded an episode with Lad Everett, who is a gun safety advocate for 20 years. He's been doing it since the Million Mom March. And he was talking about just, vicarious trauma from being engaged in this conversation for so many years, and how for him, his outlet is hockey. But I think it's just so important, like you said, to figure out what is that thing that brings you joy and to make sure that you're creating space for it.
Right. We have to have that in our life because, when you lose somebody such as a child, there are dark days, there are rainy days, there are sad days, there are days that I just don't go anywhere and I stay home and cry. And I'm not afraid to talk about that. I still cry. It's been 6 years and I still cry. I still hurt. I still feel the loss as if it happened just a couple of days ago. I mean, the pain is still there and never leaves, And so I just have my good days and I thank God for my good days. But on my bad days, I just try to stay away and I just try to stay home, get my head together, get my mind together, get my spirit right, And you're going to have bad days. Everybody does. Even when you haven't lost a child, you have bad days. And so, you just have to know how to weather the storm during your bad days. And so I just stay home and cry. Sometimes I eat ice cream, but you do have to find out what that thing is. And it's about moving to your next chapter. It's about knowing, yourself, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what are the triggers in your life. It used to be the hoodie for me, but now when I see the hoodie, I think about Trayvon.
Well, before we move off of this idea about investing in ourselves, I also want to ask you, where would you most want to see us invest in our time and our resources to make a difference in the issue of supporting mothers who have lost loved ones, the issue of racism and police brutality and gun violence, these really challenging issues that we've been talking about in this conversation? What do you feel like is a key place to invest money?
I think a key place to invest money is women and mothers. I just think women rule the world. And I think that it's always women that try to hold the families together. It's teachers trying to hold the kids together. It's just about being making sure that we are doing what we need to do. We want everything to run smoothly, but we have to be right in order for those things to run smoothly. So I think it has a lot to do with women. It has a lot to do with, the women's movement and the women's march and those things like that, just making sure that we are well-rounded. And so I think they should invest. Money needs to go into women's organizations, women's group, anything to support women and moms, because I think if you get the moms right, you'll get the kids right, you'll get the husbands right, you'll get the men right.
Yeah, and you and I were strategizing a little bit before we pressed record about this fundraising campaign that I'm starting as part of the Women Podcasters in Solidarity Initiative season. So when this episode airs, there will also be an opportunity to contribute to a fund. And as you and I were talking, it got really clear that the purpose of that fund is to support mothers or those who mother, because there are so many caregivers who might not be the biological mother, but who are playing that mothering function. Like you said, even teachers who are playing critical roles. So at the end of this conversation, we'll talk a little bit more when we give everybody a challenge about how they can support what you just talked about. The last guidepost, C, stands for connected to a strong support network. And you've talked a little bit already about your own support network, but I would love to hear about what you've created in Circle of Mothers, which is one of the projects that I hope this fund will help support and be able to expand. Tell me a little bit about how you started that and what happens in that community connection of Circle of Mothers and how we can support it.
The Circle of Mothers was a dream that I had. And I woke up in the middle of the night and it was so vivid as if I had already attended the Circle of Mothers and I was just recording what I had already saw. And I just got up and I got a notepad and a pen and I just started writing. Well, the next morning when I woke up, I had pages and pages and pages of this event that I thought that I had attended, and it was so real. It was so natural. I saw purple everywhere, which is my favorite color. I saw moms everywhere. I saw moms crying. I saw moms laughing. I just saw like all of us like coming together. Didn't really know what it was, but one of the things that I can say is when I went through the tragedy of losing my son, there was no group, there was no organization, there was no support group for me to help me with what I was going through. There was none. And so that's one of the main reasons why I established the Circle of Mothers, because now there is a group that moms could go to. And when somebody says in that group, I know how you feel, they actually know how you feel. You know, a lot of people say, you know, I support you, I sympathize, but I really don't know how you feel. Well, those moms actually know how we feel, and we know how each other feel. One of my first keynote speakers at that event was Afeni Shakur, which is Tupac's mom. She's passed away since then, but she was my keynote speaker my first year. And they had told me, oh, no, she doesn't do much speaking and this, that, and the other. But I contacted her anyway, you know, and it was only by faith that I was able to get connected with her. And I just asked. I simply just put in an ask. And I said, we really need to hear from you. She had written me a letter maybe about 2 years before that. She had written me a letter talking about Tupac and talking about her pain and talking about some of the things that I would go through. And so I just felt like, you know, just because of that letter that she would do it. And sure enough, she said she'd be glad to. And she came down. I think she was in LA at the time. And we flew her down, paid for a hotel, everything. And she spoke at our dinner at the very first Circle of Mothers. And she took a deep breath and she was like, it's just so good to be in a room of your peers. She said she had never been in a room with her peers. And this was actually her peers. So every year, as a part of the Circle of Mothers, we usually have about 100 moms. The first year we sponsor the moms, but the years after that, they have to get their own sponsorship. But I never have a shortage of moms. I have a shortage of funds. And so try to have like around about 100 moms. And we give them like little goodie bags, little swag bags that say the Circle of Mothers. And we put all kind of nice little stuff. Corral my friends together and I'd be like, listen, can you give me a little bottle of your favorite perfume or your favorite lotion? Or because I don't want junk in their bag. I want them to really have some good things. So I tell people to give me their favorite candle or their favorite lotion, their favorite shower gel, or their favorite nail polish, or just all kind of stuff. And they love all that stuff. I put cookies in there. I put candles in there. I put perfume in there, lipstick or lip gloss, and a keychain, and they get a nice bag. They get a T-shirt. But the purpose of the weekend is about healing. It's about empowering. It's about connecting with other mothers that are going through the same struggle we are. It's about us connecting with each other and linking up and making sure that they know that they're not alone. And I've had people from all over the United States. I even had I went international this year. I had 2 moms from Canada and 2 moms from Bermuda. So the Circle of Mothers is now officially international. And so I usually get mothers from all over the United States. And I've had Sandy Hook mothers. I had mothers from New York, Texas, California, everywhere. I go all over. And it's about bonding. There is, a space in there where I have a psychologist to come out and kind of get in their heads a little bit, try to find out where they are in the grieving process, so they can identify where they are so that they can move to the next step. A lot of people, that's kind of painful to identify where you are, but it's necessary. And so we do this surgery while they're there during that weekend. And then I have a comedian to come out. I don't want them to just be sad. I don't want all of us to come together and we're sad. We have enough of those days. So I do have a comedian to come out to make them laugh. I have somebody to sing, somebody to dance, and it's really uplifting event. And then the last day, I have a spiritual service where they get connected with God. They get connected with just, moving to the next level spiritually. And so it's really a good event. I don't advertise much about it because it's so personal to the moms. It's so personal to us that you don't want to record that. And it's like almost like a commercial.
Right.
And I don't want that. I want them to have their private time, that if they want to cry, they could cry. If they want to laugh, they could laugh, whatever they want to do. But I don't need it like out. I don't need it so public. It's something private and it's something personal. And there is information about it on the website. And, it's just an event where we talk about like a lot of different things, but I challenge them with different things. Like you need to meet 3 moms and that's one night. And then the daytime, they need to meet 3 more moms and then 3 more moms, and not just meet them, but exchange numbers. And so now I have moms that from California that know moms in New York, and the moms in New York know the moms in Texas, and the Texas mom know the Florida moms, and and they're all over the place, and I could see them connecting, which is good. Then the last thing I do before I end it, I tell them that, because they all say, thank you, thank you, thank you. The thank you that I want is for them to go back into their communities and help other mothers.
Yeah.
That's the thank you I want, to start a circle of mothers in your community. And even if you don't call it Circle of Mothers, just do the work. Do the work, because it'll benefit them a lot more when they see themselves helping other mothers. It kind of takes the pain. It doesn't take it away, but it lessens the pain because you're helping someone else.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely amazing what you've created. And I'm so struck by how it came to you with such clarity.
Yes. And I look forward to it. It's my signature event. I'm very proud of it. We're getting better with each year. We do a survey and we try to figure out what works and what doesn't work and things like that. But it's really a powerful weekend. Moms, anybody that you speak with that's been to the Circle of Mothers, they'll tell you it's a lasting impression, but it's just good to be around other mothers who are going through the same thing that you are.
Well, I commit to contributing to Circle of Mothers. And I hope that so many that are listening to this conversation today will help you be able to reach more mothers, give you more funds to do absolutely incredible.
Well, I want to invite you to come down to Miami. It's May 17th, 18th, and 19th. It's here in Miami, and it's the Circle of Mothers. And you can become an ambassador. You can become a support mom. And it's not just moms who, of course, my target group is moms who have lost kids through senseless gun violence. But I also have moms who maybe their son died in a car accident. Maybe their daughter had a disease or something, or, it's different reasons why. But the loss is still there. The pain is still there. But I also have support moms, because you can't have a room full of broken moms like myself. So you have to have support moms. So I just would encourage you to be a support mom, and I invite you to be a support mom. And it's May 17th, 18th, and 19th here in Miami, Florida.
I will put it on my calendar and I will be there with an honor. Thank you for the invitation. Okay, I had a question for you. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you before we leave this. Just out of curiosity, who would be your dream comedian that you would like to come this year in May?
Probably, I would say Ricky Smiley.
Okay. Let's see if we can put that wish out in the universe and see if that can happen.
Yeah, I would say Ricky Smiley. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're getting towards the end of this conversation now. And this part of the interview is a chance for you to give me and anyone else listening a challenge. And one of the things I heard from many of the women in my community when they found out I was having this conversation with you is they just wanted to know, what would you like us to do? There was a sense of just wanting to be of service to you. So what would you like us to do on your behalf and on behalf of the work that you do in the world?
I would employ that you all just be support moms. Just be support moms for moms who have lost a child. Maybe you guys get together every quarter, like every 3 months you guys get together, and maybe you go out to lunch or you go bowling or you do something just to be a support mom, just to be around those moms, not just for, the negative and not just for the disappointment and the sadness, but just so that they know they do have somebody that if they need to call somebody, if they just need to be around somebody, because sometimes, you just want somebody to call. And so just connecting with those moms maybe every 3 months. There are some things that support that those moms may need. Maybe they want to create a circle of mothers. Maybe you can assist with creating a circle of mothers by having something, a meeting place, maybe in a church, maybe in a school or something like that, where you can meet and you can actually have somebody to come in that deals with grief, that can talk to those moms so that they can move to the next level. Just making sure that you stay connected with those moms is very, very important. And so that would be the challenge. Anybody that is listening and wants to come to the Trayvon Martin Foundation, remember it's weekend. It's February 9th and 10th here in Miami, Florida. The information is on the website, and they can go to TrayvonMartinFoundation.org. One of the ways that you can support the foundation is by donating your time or donating your talent. Or if you want to, you can donate to the Trayvon Martin Foundation or to the Circle of Mothers specifically if that's something that you feel compassionate about. And so I just encourage people to go on the foundation website, see some of the things that we're doing in our community and all over the world, because I reach all over the place. I've been to Switzerland, I've been to London, I've been to Bermuda, I've been to Africa, I went to like so many other places. And the same thing is going on. It's no different. Like the injustice is happening all over the world. And where we think it's just here in the United States, and we think it's just a few bad areas here in the United States, it's in other countries as well. And so they suffer from having problems with gun violence and the lack of the justice system supporting the victim and just, making sure that the person who shot and killed somebody at least get a fair trial. Like, it's just so difficult that it's just so rapid that you see so many people suffering from the same thing. But I just encourage people to do something. If you feel deep enough about it, you feel compassionate enough about it, just do something, some type of action. Put a card in a mother's hand. Send some flowers to a mother that's lost a child. Or like I said, get together maybe every 3 months and just start a group, a circle of mothers. And you talk about different things. You talk about creating a foundation. You talk about self-love. You talk about grieving. It's so many things that women can help other women with. And we're open to that. And that's why it's so easy for me to administer the circle of mothers, because women are open. They want help. They want connection. They just don't want to feel like they're alone, like I'm going through it by myself. And so they're willing to do the work in order so they can get better and live healthier lives.
So we will put links in the show notes to the foundation and to Circle of Mothers and to the event that you mentioned. To summarize, I think the first call to action that you're giving us is to, in our own lives, find a mother who has lost a child and be a support to them and reach out in some way, take them out, let them know we're here, organize something for a group if we feel called to do that, but to really make a commitment to reach out and make a difference in another mother's life.
Yes.
The first thing
just a support system, just support.
Yeah. And then the second is to get involved with the Trayvon Martin Foundation. And so we'll, again, share the links for the different ways they can do that. And then the third one I just want to add, because again, this episode will be coming out as part of a campaign to support Circle of Mothers. So I hope that this conversation is going to go far and wide and inspire not only myself, but a lot of us to say yes to these invitations and these challenges. Thank you.
And I thank you so much for caring.
Well, this is the time of every episode where we actually end with acknowledgements. So I want to say a few things that I really appreciate about you. And I have some words that I want to read to you from one of the members of my community. And then I'll give you a chance to acknowledge whatever it is that you may appreciate or that you may be taking from this conversation. So, Sybrina, you are such an inspiration. You are such a powerful mother. It's so evident how much you love your sons and how much both of them, even though Trayvon is not here, are part of what drives you and what compels you to step up into leadership in ways that you never imagined possible. And so I hold that for me as a challenge to how can I continue to hold the love that I have of my children, but the connection I feel as a mother to so many people to take on these unjust systems and to figure out how to continue to use my voice. So thank you, first of all, just like the inspiration that you are in your example. Thank you for your openness. There are not many people that would want to or be willing to be in this conversation with me or to open your arms to so many other mothers or to invite other mothers to come to your events, to invite me to the Circle of Mothers event as you did just now. There is a way in which it's clear that you really welcome connection and connection across differences so that we realize that we can be in this work together. And then I want to read you something that a member of my group sent to me when I said, is there anything that you would want to say to Sybrina? And this came from Carly Magnus Hurt. She's married to a Black man and she has 2 Black boys that she's raising. She's a white woman. And what she said she would want to say to you is this: Trayvon will never be forgotten. His murder and the injustice burned to this day. Your son is forever carried in our hearts. Your son is forever carried in our actions. Your call for solidarity and focus on gun reform and the reform of the justice system is heard and will be fought for.
Wow. Tell her thank you.
I will, and I know she'll be listening. What do you want to acknowledge or name that you're taking away from this conversation?
The fact that you had never met and so many others had never met Trayvon, but it's just that you have a heart. You know, a lot of people are walking around and they have this thing inside their chest, but it's not beating to the right beat. It's not doing what it's supposed to, because when I hear that a child has drowned in a pool or was killed in an accident, I don't ask what color that child is. It just bothers me that it's a loss of life. And we have to really get back to the basics. We have to get back to just accepting one another for who we are. And this hatred and this gun violence and this discrimination and racism that's going on, it needs to stop. And I know it's not going to stop, but it needs to decrease, and just it's too blatant. People just don't care anymore. And that's why I said, I just thank you for caring, because a lot of people don't care anymore. They feel like, okay, I'm living in my house. I have a good job. I got me a husband and my 2 kids are here. But just imagine if something happened to one of your kids, you know, and what you would do. You know, I just feel like I'm doing what any mother would do for their child. It's like, I just have to do my very best. And when one thing is not working, then I run into a wall, then I go the other way and I do something else. And then I have so many different things that's going on at the same time. And I just feel like I just have to keep going and keep going and keep going. I have to keep busy. I have to keep moving. I have to keep helping. I have to keep going to the beach for myself. I have to keep praying. It's just so many things I have to keep doing. And I think people, a lot of times they sit back and they say, well, I hope somebody does this and I hope I'll make it happen. I'm going to do it. When I came up with the Circle of Mothers, I had no clue how it was going to get done. None. I came from the government, and the government has policies and procedures in place, and that's what you do according to those policies and procedures. The Circle of Mothers, I had no clue. I called a bunch of my friends and family in a room and I said, listen, this is what we have to do. We got to get these mothers together. We got to talk about things. I need to clear my head. I need to be around other people who are hurting, because they don't know what I'm going through. The people who have not lost a child, you really don't know what I'm going through. And so I wanted to be in a room with people who knew what I was going through, who could help me and who I could probably help. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it. That's why it's so important to me. In my first year, I didn't even speak at the Circle of Mothers, because I thought if I brought different people in, that they wanted to hear from these different speakers. Well, when I did the survey, that was one of the things that they told me. No, we want to hear from you. What did you do? And I said, well, I didn't believe in myself at first. I didn't believe that I was strong. I didn't believe that I was a speaker. I didn't believe I was a role model. I just was a parent. I was just a mom. And I was a broken mom. I was a mom that didn't want to comb her hair, brush her teeth, or go anywhere. I was that mom. I was turning into a mom that I didn't want to be. I was turning into a depressed person, and I didn't want to go there. And so I did some different things in order to pull myself back up. Because a lot of times when people go to their homes and they go back to out of town and they go back to their places where they live, and it's just you, then what do? You got to know how to pull yourself back up.
Thank you, Sybrina.
You're welcome.
Thank you for this incredible opportunity to talk with you. And I hope that this will be the start of more connection between me and you, and the community that I'm growing, and the community of support that you provide to mothers. I'm so grateful to be in connection with you. And I hope that this conversation really reaches the hearts and minds of so many other mothers, so that we can be in solidarity together in this work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming along with me on this episode of the Mother's Quest podcast. I hope this conversation sparked something that will help you live your epic life. If you'd like to get show notes and learn more about the Mother's Quest community, head over to mothersquest.com. And while you're there, I would love it if you would follow the prompts to subscribe, leave a review, and help us spread the word. I want to end with some words to help light the way on your quest. Seize the day. Love your people. Honor your gifts. Until next time.